what does Yoda say? He says, do or do not, there is no try. And I switched it up a little bit to prepare or prepare not, there is no try. A lot of times people are talking about preventing a cyber attack. Where am I at time-wise? 10 minutes, I'm doing pretty good. Prevention is a real thing. You do want to spend resources on trying to keep the bad guys out. But that is primarily a numbers thing. You're spending money, you're putting the systems in place, and you're trying to both keep them out and identify them if they get in. But preparation is a different thing. Preparation is not just the money, it's people in the business learning and being aware of the threat and then participating in preparing for an attack. The reality is, we say at H&D, it's not if, it's when. If they want to get through, they're going to get through. So it's an eventuality, it's not a maybe. And if it's an eventuality, the only thing you can do is prepare. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail, and being a casualty is avoidable. If you do prepare, this act of war is terrible. War is terrible, whether it's cyber war or real war. But if you prepare for it, if you train for it, it's survivable. Don't be the 60 to 80% of businesses that go out of business within 1 year after an attack. It is avoidable. Spending equally between your prevention and your preparation. You're probably going to spend a little more on prevention than you do on the preparation. Don't you think, Dave? Probably a little bit, but they're going to be close. Right now, what we see is people spending 90% of the money that they're doing for their cyber on their prevention and 10% or less on the preparation piece. So if you take away anything today from what I'm talking about, is don't stick your head in the sand. You're going up against some real badasses, and you can prepare to fight them. Talk a little bit about reacting versus responding. When you react in a situation, that reaction comes out of fear and panic. When you respond, there's a logical component to response, and there's planning that goes into response. When you're going into a bad situation, you're going to survive a lot more of those bad situations when you're in response mode than reaction mode. That goes for anything, right? The caveman who was standing on the around the back of a rock. I'm going a little off script here, Dave. And you know, he's got his weapon, and he's got his buddies behind him, and he thinks, man, I could go around this rock and there might be someone there, and sure enough, there's someone there and they fight. Or there's the guy that's just, I can't whistle very well, but just walks around the rock and gets hit. So you want to go out of a standpoint of response as a standpoint of reaction. So what? We're up against some really bad people. They're highly sophisticated, very intelligent. This is an act of war, one of the most scary things you can ever have. What do? You prepare. And how do you prepare? This is the key slide here. If you write these 7 things down and you can check off that you're doing those things, you've done a lot towards preparing for a cyber event. Good idea, taking a photo of it. It's super smart. Risk management assessment, and for you guys, it's not just the tech, it's the operational technology as well. The SCADA systems that are in the field that control the pumps and the valves, they are equally open to attack as your computers and your servers are. And then, of course, your physical security. A good risk management plan, and you guys know risk management, you just need to add your tech in there and your OT in there. The biggest thing, and Dave's going to hit on this, is your backups must be immutable. Anybody want to guess what immutable means? Immutability is the inability to make a change. When you have immutable backups, they cannot be deleted and they cannot be encrypted. 90% of what Dave deals with is he goes into a situation, the systems are ransomed, and the backups are gone or they're encrypted as well. That is overall the most common thing that he has to deal with. And then you're basically in the, pay the ransom type of deal. Immutable backups, if I'm hoping that you take these 7 things and you go back to your office and you get your MSP, your managed services provider like I am, or your internal IT people, and you list those 7 things and you ask them to check off all those. Are we doing a risk management on our tech? Are we doing immutable backups? Do we have an incident response plan? And have we ever done a tabletop exercise? A tabletop exercise is when you get in the room with the key people who are on the response team, and you guys know this, and you go through and you play through the scenario where we just had a big leak. We've got to notify this party. We've got to take the steps to stop the leak and clean up and all those different pieces. You need to have a disaster recovery plan. So for your systems, you actually turn the servers on in the disaster recovery environment. You actually log into your accounting system and to your whatever other systems you guys are running and actually use them in the DR environment. And so because you've planned and prepared that when the shit hits the fan, I'm going to flip these switches and we're going to be back up and running. Have cyber insurance. One of the worst things that you can do when you have an attack, it's the worst. You can ask Ralph. It is one of the worst things you can ever have happen. The amount of stress that gets felt by everybody in the business, the executives, but when you don't know how you're going to pay Dave, it's even worse. It's not just how are we going to get back up, how are we going to pay for that? When you know that you have the money, it takes away a huge amount of stress. And remember, on your cyber policies, you'll have declarations. You'll say, I do this, I do this, I do this. You can't just check off yes, 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 because the cyber companies will come back, the cyber insurance companies will come back and say, you got attacked, but you weren't doing these 4 things you said. And either we're going to deny coverage or we're going to give you less coverage than you paid for. Multi-factor authentication. Does everyone know what MFA is? Yeah? Okay. I won't beat that, but this is one of the hugest things, and you've got to audit this, you guys. What happens is IT departments say, we have MFA. And we go in and we do a risk assessment, and yes, you do have MFA, but unfortunately on 30% of your accounts, it's not turned on. So if it's not turned on every account, you don't have MFA. And then the last thing, and this is pretty technical, but having zero trust set up on your network. Meaning within your network, whatever turns on and runs program-wise on the network is allowed by the zero trust network. If you're trying to run a hacking software, it can't run because it's not trusted. So that's when you really need to talk to your tech people about. Hey, I'm doing pretty good. 12 minutes. As Ralph knows, I have a habit of kind of talking a little bit. Can't tell. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. So think preparation and prevention. I'm not saying don't prevent. I'm not saying don't get a good perimeter. That's not what I'm saying. But you need to do both. Think about this, you guys. If you take what I've taught you today and you talk to your business partners up and down the chain, your vendors, your clients, your customers, if they get hit, a lot of times the impact on you as the business is just as much as if you get hit yourself. So when you're telling people to be prepared and you know your business partners are taking that seriously, that's a really important piece. And lastly, prepare, don't be a casualty of war. That 60 to 80% is real that go out of business within 1 year. And if you prepare and you have a good amount of prevention, you can withstand the battle. Thank you very much.